This is the Tom Bigby Tales. I'm your host, Shannon Evans, with my co-host, Missy Lee. I write about a small town in Northeast Mississippi on the Tom Bigby River and sometimes about the rest of the state. Hey, Missy.
Hey,
So we've had a lot going on the last few days,
a little bit.
a little bit.
Yep.
So shall we start right in and talk about about these findings and the all the questions we have and all the stuff we've been digging through and
Yeah, you think maybe like first, I don't know if I mean people know a little bit about I don't think people really know that much about like how I work with you. We're a team, but I like the
oh, fiddle
background
dee
stuff.
dee. This is all, oh, of course this is all important. Let's hit it. Tell me a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
Missy, and how you've helped me
Oh.
work with me.
Oh, okay. So I make the videos. That's that's me. Initially, like I didn't want anyone to know that, but I just don't care anymore. And then I guess we met when I started doing Pale, right? Because
Yeah.
I reached out. Okay, I had a weird experience, and so had some friends, and they said we should do a documentary. And I reached out to Nancy at the Columbus Convention and Visitors Bureau. Did I say it right?
Yep.
I sent an email, a follow up email. I never heard anything back.
So
And
what did
then
you ask?
Shannon,
What were you telling them about your documentary?
well, I had this entire pitch, right? Like I'd looked into all these case studies where things that happened, there were similar. It was kind of paranormal, out of the unknown, similar things that happened in towns, and those towns were able to take those things and kind of capitalize on it and drive tremendous amounts of tourism. And I live in Columbus. That's my city. I love it. Well, the county, but they're
Uh-huh.
both mine, right? Okay, so I did a bunch of case studies, and I showed what these events had done for the tourism in the town. And I wasn't asking for money. I just thought, I'm investing $35,000 of my own money, and that's a lot for a single mama. Maybe they could donate food or help with someplace for these my crew members to stay, or something. But
Discount
she wouldn't
coupon to
reply.
Zachary's, something.
Anything, yes, anything, because I was, any help I could get, because I knew that like a documentary being shot in a town that drives tourism anyway, and then once it came out, it would be even more. And I don't think I'm wrong about that, but I kind of felt when she didn't reply, I was like, well, gosh, maybe I started questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I found you, and you were like, no, send it to me. And then I kind of found out a little bit more about what was going on, and the rest is history, really. Like I'm as fired up as you are. I don't understand why more people aren't pissed. But did I say a bad word? Can I say that
No,
word?
you can say that word. I say pissed all the time. Let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff we found recently. I mean, we know that the double-decker buses that she bought for I don't know, we almost $100,000 into these buses, if not more. There's two buses.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like one, so she ordered another. She left the first one out and let it rot, blah blah blah. And those buses are now both inoperative. The second bus she bought was a lemon, and she didn't do her job, doing she didn't have anybody do any inspection or anything. She bought it sight unseen from England, etc. ad nauseum, and she got rooked. And it on its maiden voyage, which was a wedding party that rented it, and they had to call and get rescued. So, yeah, that those are being sold for scrap. They'll be lucky if they get, 1,500, $2,000 for that. Then we
Well,
have
we've been here before.
the Elks Club building across the street is a mess. And she let that just sit there in neglect, although she kept saying it was going to be a children's museum and she allegedly got all these grants. Although I don't know what the heck she did with those grants, because the building still leaks. The roof is a piece of poop. The porch was rotted, and they had to replace it so they could do that arts and antique show last year, so nobody fell through. Um, the roof still has to be replaced, and now Nancy's not in charge, and the board is going to have to sink over $100,000 in repairing just the roof. That doesn't even
Of the Elks
include
Club.
yeah, that doesn't even include the fascia board or anything like that. Just to get it ready to sell, they're going to have to sink $100,000 into it of yours and my money. And
Yeah,
then,
how have they sell it though? Because what are we going to do if they don't sell it? Like,
well,
how,
they're going,
this is just
there are people,
disastrous.
I think it'll be sold, and I think whoever buys it'll end up buying that land next to it. My hope is
Yeah,
that if they do sell it, they guarantee that it can't be torn down or destroyed. And then right next door is the Musselwhite building, which is a modern
mhm,
brick building that was probably built in the 70s, I would guess. It used to be a tourism, it used to be a tour company there that, sold airfare and stuff. And then
right,
it was a barber shop, and then the CVB bought it under Nancy because they were going to use it for extra storage until they tore it down to build a parking lot for their children's museum, which has never happened and never gonna happen. And now all the awning is mildewed, and it was just never maintained. It looks god awful. So that building is gonna have to have, in order to sell it, it's gonna have to have work put into it. And then we're to the
yeah.
Tennessee Williams building, and that has been um
Oh,
it is an absolute mess, and it's a
I've
crime.
been up close and personal. Yes, I'm
Well,
aware.
yeah, and it's because, so in 2010 they put well over $100,000 into that. They put like almost $300,000 into that building, restoring it. Nancy was in charge of it because she's been the director. She was the co-director of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, which is responsible for that building, and the CVB. She was at both places, running both places, and she never put a dime into the upkeep of that building. And so
Right. You
that's an
know,
old,
oh, go ahead. Sorry for
because
talking over each other.
old buildings require constant upkeep and attention. It's not like you can
So
just
do new ones. Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't just ignore it.
Um,
You have to deal with it. And now it's in such bad condition. It's
well, you also can't make excuses for the rot of it because I read, she tells on herself. I read an article where she was interviewed about the Tennessee Williams home, and she said, "Well, it's not it's an old building, and we have all these old homes in Columbus, and even the ones that were built in the 1800s, like they don't have 10,000 people going through them a day, and houses wear down. They do, but the Tennessee Williams building was not used like a residential home. Nobody was, because I went, look, when I want to know something, I dig deep. We've met, right? I
yeah,
went deep
yeah.
into that. Nobody was cooking in there. Nobody was just taking showers. They weren't clothes being washed. What are they open like 4 days a week from like
Well,
nine
no,
to
well, and
four?
here's the other thing, Missy. I can
So
never remember
there was
10,000
never
people going.
10,000 people.
No,
No,
not a
no.
year.
And even if they were, that doesn't contribute to the breakdown of a house like
You mean
daily
the
living
sill
does.
beams that were rotted and the fascia and the
Yeah. I crawled right under the house, you guys. Like I did. I was all up under there sitting with my lookout. I don't it's awful. Like brings tears to your eyes. That could have been the smell. But
no,
it
no,
is sad.
it was the rotten sill beams. But I find it funny that, I mean, they did all that exterior and interior work, and then we found that information when I
You did.
did that
Yeah,
public
you
records
found that.
request.
Yeah.
And we got,
Yeah.
she turned around and has to do the work that should have been done in the first place. I mean, if you're going to jack up a house, you usually do that before you fix the plaster inside, repaint the inside, and repaint the outside, and before
Right.
you build the porch. So she already did all
Yeah.
that work. I brought it to the attention that that stuff was rotten, and the engineers had already found it, and they knew it was a problem back in May, and they opted not to fix it. Now here it is, late August, early September, and they suddenly decided to give it some attention. And
Well,
now they're
because they
having,
didn't have a choice. They had
oh,
to. That's what happens when you're vigilant and you haven't given up. And I
no,
like just
and
the go ahead.
I couldn't in good conscience, knowing that that is a public venue that mostly people who come to town, who are visitors here, decide, oh, I didn't know Tennessee Williams was born here. Let's go look at the Tennessee Williams house. And then to have somebody be injured because of the rotten sill beams. I mean, the walls were about to fall off that building, the exterior
I
walls.
know. Yeah, you
We're
made me get out.
collapsing.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I was like, it's bad. It's really
It,
bad.
so,
It's
so
it's the as we got deeper into it though, like for me, my investment was the sheer amount of money that has just been completely wasted. And I think about like those are my taxes, those are my neighbors, everyone who lives in Columbus. You should care. It's a lot of money. And
well,
how has someone gotten away with this for so long with nothing
every
done?
time,
Why did
every
that
time you,
happen?
every time you go out to eat, you're paying the 2% tax. That's what it's part of it's
What is
going
that?
to. Well, it's a
Do you understand
tax.
that? 'Cause I don't.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it was a luxury tax that was added to all the restaurants in town to cover as
Oh
a two
wow.
it's a 2% tax that goes back into the community as a benefit that's directed just toward um it's a
Tourism, bringing
yeah,
people.
it's a food and beverage tourism tax.
Oh, that's really brilliant, actually.
Yes. So it goes right back into the community, mostly in the form of basic tourism. That's how the CVB is funded. It's also invested in other things in this community beyond tourism.
Like what?
I'm not really positive on the whole breakdown, but I do know that the city gets a cut of that, the board of supervisors, like soccer fields, baseball fields.
Yeah,
So some of that
right.
it goes back, it benefits lots of different groups and
Recreation and
yeah.
yeah,
So it
that
benefits
makes
the
sense.
whole community. So it
But
goes,
then
it's a
it,
reinvestment into our community.
but it hasn't been going into the community.
Well,
It's
not the
been
part that
wasted.
well, it does now at the CVB, but when Nancy Carpenter was in charge at the CVB, she was spending it foolishly, like you and I saw. She bought
Oh, this is just
hundreds of
yes,
thousands of dollars of ads on airlines that don't even service Columbus,
Columbus. And
like
then wasn't it
United
also a
Airlines.
bunch of money? Yeah, and a bunch of money at Mississippi State, and magically she has box seats, and that's not connected anyway. What a
No, of
coincidence!
course not.
And I
No, of
mean,
course not.
why do you advertise so locally for tourists when you're in your own town? Like, hey, come tour Columbus. Well, I live here. How does
Well,
that even make sense?
so here's what's interesting. So people who go to the Mississippi State games, especially the out of town team, usually stays in Columbus. So those people stay at the same hotel or try to stay at the same hotel where the team's staying. That's just, a thing. So
Yeah,
while I understand some pieces of advertising should possibly go to those, but those people are already here. We're not bringing them here, right?
right.
And then at
Usually,
Mississippi
right.
State, we were investing an ungodly sum, $80,000 to advertise on the Jumbotron ads that said visit Columbus, blah blah blah. People are there at a football game.
They've already got their hotel rooms. They've already got where they're going to
Yeah,
stay is
and they're
already
not gonna
solidified.
come, they're not gonna notice that. It's not, there's no connection to football between Columbus and Mississippi State football. So
There's
it was
really
as
not.
if
No.
she just went, whoever called her and said they wanted her to buy an ad is like, she just said, "Hey, that's a great idea." She never had
Yeah.
there was no cohesive
No.
marketing plan or advertising plan.
Right.
It was,
It's usually you do something to evaluate your ROI, that's your return on investment. You run campaigns, you adjust those accordingly. I didn't see where any kind of marketing like that was done
no,
at
there were no
all. That's
metrics. That's
super concerning.
well,
No metrics. That's so
no metrics.
concerning.
There was no metrics. There was no action on no, nothing actionable. And half the time the ads she ran had absolutely no call to action.
You what? Wait,
There was no
what?
call to action. It didn't say
You're
come to
that
Columbus
is
to
not true.
Catfish Alley or to the Catfish.
Are you serious? Are
No,
you
I'm dead
serious? Like, are you
serious.
joking?
No.
Oh,
And
Shannon. Oh my God.
so wait a minute, it gets better.
I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't
No,
laugh. I don't mean it's funny.
it gets better. Nancy
Uh,
Carpenter used her house for so many ads.
I
It
know.
was her living room. It was her back porch. It was her fire pit area. It was her daughter sitting around
well,
having mint
what?
juleps.
Welcome to Columbus, home of Nancy Carpenter.
Well, pretty much.
I know, yeah. There was
Well,
a sign, I
wait a
think.
minute. I got a whole
That-
nother one for you. You want another one?
Tell
Want
me,
to have
tell
a
me.
real good
Well,
good one?
of course I do. Have we met?
Okay.
Of course.
So the little booklet that you pick up at visitor centers around the state had a picture of a little girl with blonde hair with a little yellow coat and blue trousers running. And it's a
And
blurred
for what?
green behind it. That's her granddaughter.
And what was the point of it?
I don't know. Some
It was just a
some
picture.
cute little white girl running across because that just represents
Well, I
Columbus.
mean, I'm a white girl. I don't have a problem with white girls,
No,
black girl,
my
whatever.
point.
But was
No,
there like any kind
you're
of
not.
call? Yeah.
So wait a minute.
Am I
Listen to
missing
this.
it? Okay. Okay.
The
I'm gonna
whole
shut up.
thing is it's some white child running across a green space that is a blurred background. That's all it
Oh,
is. It doesn't represent
that's
Columbus. There's no significant building in the background. There's no significant community. It's not like a whole bunch of people at a soccer game. There's nothing that identifies Columbus. Heck, there's not even a river flowing behind it that I could even go, okay, she was trying to make it look like the Tom Bigby. There is
do you have?
nothing.
I want to see it. Do you have it? I want to. Is it in those emails? That I have copies of.
Probably.
Okay. No.
It was
I bet.
it's
I think
probably
it.
still
I
at the
think I
visitors.
remember seeing it.
It's probably still at the visitor center if it ever opens back up.
So it could have been anywhere. So what you're saying basically is that could have been anywhere on Earth.
Correct.
Right? Like
It is
that's
just
okay. I
any
get you.
blonde little child. She's precious. There's nothing wrong with it, except that it's a pixelated image because she used a photo off of her cell phone.
Oh no, nobody taught Nancy about dots per inch or.
No,
I mean,
no.
I'm so glad. I'm glad. Thank God for Frances because she knows her stuff. You know.
Yep. But
Oh goodness.
it's like saying this bland green space and this privileged little girl running across represents Columbus. And I'm like going, no, it represents Nancy.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Well, and
I
a
mean.
couple of things is it's lazy advertising. She probably waited to the last minute. They asked for an image.
Yeah.
And that's the one
Yeah.
she
That's
said, oh,
wild.
let's send this one. I like this one.
Yeah. That's wild.
And that
Goodness.
leads us to everything's last minute. One.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just the
Have you
grant.
talked? I don't know if you talked. Yeah. Have you talked about the What? Where was it? Was it the? It wasn't the credit cards. It was a budget. We saw a budget, and some things in the budget were really strange. Like, I'm not. I'm going to hold off on that one because I don't know if you talked about that. That might be a. Yeah. Let's move on from that. I'll talk to you. I'll ask you later. Well, I guess we could cut
Well,
this, right?
I tell you
No,
what,
go ahead.
I tell you what, let's talk around this because
Okay.
this is huge. This is a big conflict of interest. So,
Okay.
okay. So let's talk about the whole conflict of interest between Nancy working for the Columbus Visitors Bureau at the end of her employment there and the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation.
Okay, yeah. So she was working 2 full-time positions for 2 different companies in the same office space, using the same office supplies during the same hours every day.
Except when in October of 2023, well, actually September was when they gave it to her. She was given a new contract for 6 months. And the new contract said that her full-time position was with the CVB. And when she was with the CVB in those hours of 8 to 5, in her position as the director and the director of the CVB, that her job was devoted to the CVB, and her employees worked for the CVB. They did not work for the foundation, so they could not do foundation work. They could not be tasked with it because she had a bad habit of having them do that work. She could not use her office computer, her office photocopier, her office, any of those things to conduct foundation work. And her foundation job was part-time, by the way.
Okay.
And it still is. It
It's
is
still
not
a conflict of interest. It's
yeah.
still a conflict of interest.
It is still a conflict of interest. However, she was not to conduct any CVB business during, not to conduct any Cultural Heritage Foundation business on CVB time or dollars. Now, that leads us to the grant that she got last minute with the with MDAH for the it's called the Community Heritage Preservation Grant. And there was a requirement that the program coordinator, which is the president of the foundation, because this is a foundation grant, remember, they were the ones who applied, that one of those, that Brenda Willis had to go, because she was going to be managing the contracts and all that good stuff, that she had to go to this mandatory workshop in February of 2024. And it was an all-day workshop. Now, I believe that was a Friday. I'm pretty sure. So that's a working day, right? Isn't that a work day? Monday through Friday? Okay. So
yeah.
I'm looking at the form that they sent in. And it says, who was going? Brenda Willis, president of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation. Nancy Carpenter, CEO of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, and Rissa Lawrence, board member of the Columbus Visitors Bureau. Now, are you seeing an issue with this?
Yes, because she shouldn't be attended. Well, that's a conflict of interest too. Like, conflicts of interest are pretty serious. I don't know if people realize, like, it's a big deal. There are systems in place to prevent things like that. So things like what are happening right now won't happen. And it's like, it's just completely overlooked, and nobody minds the rules.
Well, wait a minute. It gets better. You want to know the better part about it?
You know, I'm going to say yes. Tell me.
Okay. Brenda, Nancy, and Rissa happily go down there. And by the way, Brenda and Rissa both wanted the blackened chicken sandwich, and Nancy got the Club Basil pesto sandwich. That's how much we know. This came from a public records request. This was in that 666-page stack of documents I got.
Well, I know we've been round and round with some documents. What is the relevance of saying what they ate? Was that not very expensive? Was it like, we're not ordering live? I don't understand that.
No, it means that just shows me that there was a commitment. Somebody ordered a lunch. That means a lunch was ordered and there was a commitment that they were going to be there. Let's get to the juiciest part of that. Now we know that they were serious about going because they ordered their box lunch. Then I lost you, Missy.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. It just dinged. I thought I lost you. Okay, so then while they went down there, and it was an all-day event. I mean, this probably went till 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. They spent the night. And how do I know that?
Because they charged it to the CVB credit card.
They charged it to the CVB credit card. They stayed at the Westin Hotel for $459 Jackson.
Oh my God.
And when you go to find
my God.
When you look at I wanted to know the receipt, and it says it's a lost receipt. But you know what the magical thing about that is? When there's a lost receipt, you can go to the Westin and you can talk to their accountant.
Oh, do they find, is it I once was lost and now I'm found type thing? Amazing Grace? Do
they have it? There's a lot of Amazing Grace going on with Nancy Carpenter.
Goodness. I talked to a good friend the other day who said, I don't know why she's holding on. I don't know why she doesn't just go home. And then said, probably because I didn't say this, but the friend said this, probably because she's trying to cover her tracks. Absolutely.
I think so too.
That is spot on. But I mean, it's not working. It's not working.
Well, here's the thing. She likes to pretend she's the victim. She likes to lie. I mean, she has lied 3 times to the city council in 3 different meetings. She's lied every time. She told the city council, and you can watch the videos. I mean, go to the city council website and watch it. She told the city council that she had a $50,000 grant with the Columbus Heritage Hills. Maybe she does.
Yep.
Maybe she doesn't. But Nancy is not transparent, so we don't know. Well, then the next not even 5 days later, she announces to the city council when she's asked to
For the
present
money.
more information that about the money she's requesting. She said that they said to her, well, they asked her a question and she turned around and she goes, well, I've got $100,000 grant coming from the Heritage
I heard
Hills.
about them.
So now
Yeah, I heard
that's
about that.
doubled her grant, but we've not seen anything in the news. There's not anything in the Heritage Hills news. There's nothing on anybody's website. There's nothing in the newspaper that tells us this is, this great news. You would think there would be great news, right?
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
also think
Unless
that
you made it up.
well, yeah, you would also think that more than meets your matched grant that you need, because her
Right.
original matched grant was $54,069.69 from the city of Columbus, which she strong-armed out of the mayor and to sign an agreement. And he then turned around and told her he'd have to go to the city council and she'd have to go ask them, which she waited a full year to ask them.
Yeah, till the day before, right? Wasn't it like
Yeah.
the day before it was due or something?
Yeah, pretty much. The week before it was due, and then she came in the last time, the day before it was due. So
Right. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so now we have those two lies. Well, then this past week, I took a letter from the MDAH signed by Katie Blount, who's I guess she's the director. So it's that letter says that the agreed upon matching grant was $39,605.27. So now all of a sudden these numbers keep changing. So Stephen Jones, who's a councilman, asked her, he says, well, we have this letter that says 39,605. Why do you need 54? Well, what's interesting is that 54 predates this letter because it's from back in September of 2023. And this letter saying 39,000 is from January of 2024. And she told the councilman, she says, well, we asked for more money because we found damage. And I was all I could do not to scream that, wait a minute, she's lying to you right there. So I talked to the councilman afterwards and he's like, oh my God, you're right. She did lie to us. She's bald-faced lied to them in the council chambers. I could not believe that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
she lied to them. She's lied 3 times. This is all a giant shell game. She's moving money around to rob Peter to pay Paul. And then she lies about stuff like, if she's got $100,000 grant, more power to her, but she needs to be transparent. Just shouting out numbers. There's no transparency. And she told the city council said, well, are you going to be transparent with the money if we give it to you? And she's like, oh, of course, I'm always transparent. I always have to do this, that, and the other. I'm like,
oh my God. Yeah, like I've watched you for the past, 7-8 months go through so much BS, red bureaucratic tape. It's insane. She's not transparent. She's anything but. But here's the thing. This is what really gets me. People say, oh, Shannon has something personal against Nancy. This is not true. You don't even really know Nancy. And here's the human element of it. She's somebody's daughter. She's somebody's mother. I understand that. There are people who love her. We don't have a problem with Nancy. We have a problem with lies and with people misusing public funds.
It's
don't
the
do that.
misuse of public funds.
Yes.
And I'm finding it over and over and over. And this thing about paying for the credit card, I'm going to tell you, so many charges. I mean, really, we paid for her to go to Broussard's. We paid for her to spend Easter eating a fancy dinner at Broussard's. Our tax dollars paid for her New Year's up at Opryland Hotel. What about the McCarty Pottery and the Apple charges? Her ESPN, her Apple account, her ESPN. It just goes on and on and on. Oh, and all the newspapers.
Oh yeah, and everything you looked at that was suspicious that you marked that you wanted receipts for, they were magically missing.
Yeah, it's amazing how many receipts.
Every single thing, yeah.
And why why the CVB paid for it? They never saw the credit card statements. They were not part of their board packet. It's just a line item on the checkbook because it's an auto draft to pay. It is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. And hopefully they're going to make some changes. But I wanted to shift to something real quick because I think this is the part that's thinking about the future. You know, I really do hope they fix the Tennessee Williams building. I really do. Although I find it interesting that she asked for money and then she's going to throw a party and invite the people who gave her the money when she opens the building. Anyways, I thought that was kind of tasteless and tacky, but
Yeah, that's insane.
yeah, we don't have
That is
enough money to
that is
finish.
great.
Yeah, we don't have enough money to finish the repairs, but by God, we're going to throw a hell of a party.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want an invite, but I kind of feel like I won't get one.
I don't think we'll get an invite. I think we just go because
Are
it's
we going to
our
become the
money.
wedding crashers? But like,
It's a
you're
public,
right, it is.
it's a public venue and it's our money.
I mean, I'm not saying we are not welcome, but we are not welcome.
We're not welcome. Okay, so let
Yeah,
me let
well,
me shift to one other thing, and I want your thoughts on
go
this.
ahead, yeah, of course.
Now that you understand a little bit about the 2% tax,
Yes,
this is, and Nancy doesn't have much of a budget, so she has no buffer to misspend money like she likes to. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Her budget last year was $120,000 to run to run the Tennessee Williams building.
Right.
I can't see her getting much more than 120,000. Let's say she gets 130,000 from the CVB. Now, if I were the CVB, I wouldn't give them a damn dime. They need to go do their own fundraising. But let's say
because they don't, do they? Do they do any of their own fundraising?
no, they do absolutely. I've never seen a 501c3 that does absolutely no fundraising. Zero.
Me
But
neither. No,
they
no,
have no
nor have I.
capital campaign. They do nothing. They have no trust, nothing. So let's look at what I think she's going to do.
Okay.
So when Nancy
So
was working for the CVB, they have a multi-million-dollar budget that would have benefited from the 2% tax. Like I said,
right.
the city, the county, all kinds of the board of super, they all benefit from this. The link, they benefit from the 2% tax. It helps our community. Well, Nancy's looking at that going, ooh, the 2% tax is probably, let's just give it a number. I'll say it's worth $4 million. So there's $4 million pool out there. Nancy's going to go, ooh, I want a piece of that. So she's a 501c3 right now. So she can't just go and say, I want to be part of it. She has to go to the state legislature. She will either go to Kabir Kareem or she'll go to Chuck Younger, who are our representatives, our legislators from Lowndes County. And she will say, ooh, I want a piece of that pie. How do I do it? And they'll say, well, we got to write a bill. So she'll get them to write a bill. Let's pretend that they can get it through the state legislature. I don't see it happening because most of our legislation that comes from Columbus doesn't, because our legislators are fairly they're not part of the good old boys system that's attached to like Mississippi State or Ole Miss, that those bigger groups of people. But they're nice guys.
Fraternity brothers.
Yeah, they're nice guys, and I think they do good work, but they're not power brokers, they're worker bees, and they're good worker bees, but they're not the big bill legislation writers that some of the others are. So let's see, but let's say for the sake of argument, they write a bill and it's attached to something else that's popular and it gets through. And it says it's okay for the foundation we think it's okay that they should be included in some of the 2% tax recipient. So then that doesn't mean she gets it. Then it comes back, and the people who do the decision making are the link, the board of supervisors, and the city council. I think that's correct. And she has to get them. she has to get them to support giving her a piece of the pie that they are currently getting. Now, the city gets a really small piece of the pie, very small.
Right.
County gets
Right.
a little bit more. This so who who's going to want to give up their piece of the pie because she's going to want $500,000. I guarantee you she's not going to settle for less than 500,000. Now, what's the problem with that? One, that means somebody else has to give up a piece of their pie, which I don't see
That
them.
is no, and that is such an impressive sense of entitlement.
Well, let's go further. It's a nonprofit. No other nonprofit benefits from the 2% tax directly. They don't have a direct piece of it. Now, they do benefit. Let's say the city of Columbus gives the Arts Council, $10,000, and it comes from that 2% grant pool. They're benefiting, but they're not benefiting directly. They're not making any of the decisions, right? Of how much of that money.
Right.
Well, here's the other thing that's interesting. What does the Tennessee Williams, what do they do? Tell me what they do.
I can't. It sits there. I'm not a fan of the color palette, but I guess it takes some good pictures in sunset. Shannon, I don't know. I can't
They
tell you.
open the door and hand out pamphlets to visitors who come to our town.
Yeah, I would have just stuck with I don't know, because that's like
they do not do
would do that.
Correct, but
Yeah.
it is a visitor center. It is nothing more. They do not host any events. They do not have any events like related to Tennessee Williams. They used to help with the pilgrimage, but the homeowners were so disenfranchised by Carpenter's bookkeeping, and they split ways. So
as they should have.
they
It was awful.
used to manage the buses, but the buses are going to the trash.
Yep, same old story. History repeats. We've been here before.
They do not host anything. They aren't involved with the Tennessee Williams plays. The Tennessee Williams Society organization, they have nothing to do with that building because she was less than supportive, shall we say, of their endeavors to commemorate Tennessee Williams or have anything to do with that. She doesn't do anything there but open the doors and have tourists walk through and use the loo that's on the back porch and pick up some maps of Columbus and things to see and do in the area. It's no different.
Yeah.
It's no different than one of those visitor centers on the highway when you go to Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, that's insane to me.
So,
goodness,
I don't see the powers that be wanting to share their piece of the pie with her, and they can't be made.
Wow.
They cannot be made to give it to her.
Well, why would anybody want to? Like, if you handle your portion responsibly, and someone else is being very irresponsible and living a lavish life, we've got people out here on these streets like barely making it. City workers, for one, like it's a joke to give them $15 an hour. I know it's an improvement, but they should make far more than that. More than some. When you have some lady who's living it up, earning two incomes, working basically the same position for the same hours, even if one is part-time, I don't care, that's conflict of interest. And our city workers, they keep the city going. They're the reason you can drive down the road and your car doesn't fall apart from a pothole. And they make what? I'm
like
sorry,
$12.75 an hour is less than $13 an hour.
I think we should pay Nancy that, or at least maybe just for a week make her work a city worker job.
Well, I just think she needs to get out of anything that has to do with managing public funds because she likes to misuse
she should
them.
never be allowed to do that again. Absolutely, that should be outlawed for her. She's clearly, it is sickening how in your face it is that she's been doing this. And who says something? Not anybody that works there. Well, I know of one man who who spoke up. But what happened to him?
Well, I know of a couple of board members that have tried and they got shot down.
And one got booted. You know, it's just
Two of them I
ridiculous.
know got booted.
Oh, really? I just know
Yeah.
of one, but I
Yeah.
haven't been here as long as you.
But what's really interesting is she's now at she's now with a 501c3 as opposed to the CVB. The CVB is a government entity. This is a completely private entity. They are not transparent, nor do they have to be. The only thing they have to be transparent about are their taxes. And the last taxes that I can find that are public, and I've asked about this, are from 2021. It does not appear that they have posted the rest of them with the state site as one is supposed to. I guess they're behind on that. So they were posted in 2022 for 2021. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on that. But I know that I've not seen any taxes that indicate anything after year 2021. Their books are not open. You cannot do a public records request because they're not a public entity. And even though you ask, they refuse to show you anything. Their board is non-responsive. You can email them, you can do whatever. They never respond to a question or a concern. And it's really hard to find out who the board members are. The only ones I know of are Sonic Johnson, who's their treasurer. Brenda Willis is their president. I know that Talia Carter she's a local realtor. I know she's on their board, and Martha Jo Mims. But other than that, there must be somebody else, but I just don't know who it is. I really don't. And so it's the fact that there's absolutely there's no reason for them to even be in existence if they're not going to take care of that building long term. They haven't taken care of that building long term. They selected a director who has a published history of misuse of public funds and now has unfettered access to their funds, limited though they are, thank goodness. But now she's in charge of all these grants, allegedly, and the grants all have responsibilities attached to them. So if she doesn't follow through or meet deadlines, they could be on the hook for the $308,000 worth of work that Nancy quoted at the city council meeting. So who's going to pay?
I mean, I feel like, you know, we've been paying the people the Columbus community, Lowndes County, we've been paying. It's not our turn anymore.
No,
but
then
who cleans it up? I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, who's going to pay Morrow, the architect?
The architect, yeah.
Who's going to pay Joe? I can't remember his name. The guy who's doing the contract work. And he's got to be out significant amounts. Who's going to pay the guys who came in, who are the house specialists, to jack up the building? Who's going to, who's going to pay all this? If she screws up,
go ahead.
If she screws up and doesn't, the MDAH could pull their funds and say, you know what, you didn't meet the terms of the contract. I
don't think it's a matter of if she screws up. She has screwed up. Screwed up. There's no question.
I mean, it's just, where's that other 100,000 that she's bragging about?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you where it is. It has yet to manifest because it was pulled from her imagination, and that is a good start, Nancy. But it's not always guaranteed. I know from experience. So I don't know, and maybe I could be wrong about that. But if I got $100,000 grant, I would be screaming it from the rooftops. I got a $5,000 grant one time, and I wouldn't shut up about it for a month. Okay, so but whatever. Just sipping my tea with Kermit.
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say about that.
It's the insanity of it that is just it.
Yeah, and I really wish people more. I've watched the podcast go up, and there are a lot of downloads. And I understand why a lot of people want speak up out loud. I do, because their jobs are on the line. They're, I get that. But I mean, come on, we've got to start saying something. People have to. I can't tell anybody else what to do, but I really commend you. I admire you for what you've done, because, oh man, Shannon, you have worked. I mean, really, you have worked so hard on this. I've never seen anything quite like it. It makes me feel like I'm losing at life sometimes, because by the time you call me in the morning, you've done like 10 things, kicked ass at pickleball, and I'm like dragging my butt inside from getting my kid on the bus and cheering that he's going to be gone for the next 6 hours.
Yeah, but you know,
good for you though.
It's the fact that this is all our money. And if she gets her fingers on any of that 2% tax, that means someone who is being responsible, and an organization that is transparent, and we'll have no transparency for that 2%, whatever that portion of the 2% she gets. You will never see where it's spent. You will never know how many Gucci handbags she buys, or how many trips she takes to Opryland.
I know, and that just kills me, because the story behind Pale, the documentary where we shot some of it, but then we ran out of money. We couldn't finish. We're going to finish it, but I had no idea that I could get help like that. I didn't know that was available. I didn't even know. And the amount of people that would have drawn, just because I know the subject, and I know that it's growing in interest. It just, like, I cried hard one night when I realized, like, oh my goodness, like, I put in this much of my money because I live in Columbus, and this is my city, and this is where it happened. Well, kind of like Steen's area, but, and then
it's still where we live. It's Lowndes County.
But I love my city so much. Like, I wanted that for the city, and I didn't even know I could get help with that. But, and just to not get an answer, like, I thought my idea wasn't good, and that's why I didn't get an answer. And when I found out, like, actually, it's not a bad idea, Missy. It was actually pretty brilliant. You said so, Shannon. Shannon said it was brilliant, and I believe you. So it just is. And how many other people like me have reached out just asking for a gift certificate for a crewman? That really, because I didn't have any idea I could get help financially. I really wasn't asking for it, but how many other people just like me have reached out and been ignored?
Well, I mean, if she had even just said, hey, we don't have any money. Let's say she didn't have any money. We don't have any money to give. For money, though. So we don't have any money to give, but I'm going to call up to my friend who has sweet peppers, and I'm going to ask them that when you buy sandwiches for your crew, you get a 5% discount. Whatever. That would help me so much. And then it would have shown that she cared about the outcome of a project that had the potential to bring benefit to this community.
Yeah.
Which she doesn't care. It didn't benefit her. If it didn't benefit her or her friends or her status with her friends, it wasn't worth her time, and it wasn't her idea.
Well, I mean, it was about a monster, to be fair, and maybe it didn't benefit her because it was about her in some strange way.
In a strange way.
I'm still working on that theory. I'm not pulling out the tacks and the red yarn yet, but yeah.
Well, but,
no, that was ugly. I didn't mean that.
Well, no,
I did.
But it's the whole idea of it's like all the money, millions of dollars she has wasted over the last, let's just say over the last 10 years, millions of dollars wasted. So every one of these buildings that she has been part of, the Elks Club, the Tennessee Williams building, the Musselwhite building, all of those are representative of the rot she has brought to existence. Those were beautiful buildings, and they could have been iconic buildings for this town. And instead, she let them rot. She let them languish. She ignored them. She had every opportunity in the world, but because she's incompetent and she's selfish, she let them rot. And we as a community are just as guilty for not holding her accountable. So that's why I'm doing what I do. Someone has to hold the person or the organization that is responsible for all of that devastation at right when you come into our town, both sides of the street look like crap. It's embarrassing. It makes our whole town, our whole downtown look uncared for, untended. It is just an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Good.
malfeasance. That's just
Of
malfeasance.
course.
It's
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, holding people in positions of power accountable is exhausting. Honestly, you've got institutional protections. They have access to resources that you know, the everyday person doesn't. Then there's the power dynamics, and the people on the inside fear the repercussions of doing that. And then you've got public perception and manipulation, like when she lies at those city council meetings, and the complexity of accountability mechanisms is a mess. Constant corruption, collusion. I get disheartened some days, but
well, I'm not done
and that's
fighting.
what. Oh, I know you're not. You keep me going. You're the reason
Well,
I keep going, because I'm just like,
well, there are some
yeah.
days. There are some days where I'm just like, why do people keep giving her money? Can't they see? Well,
Well,
it's
people
like
are tired. It's public it's public apathy. People are tired as hell. They're having to work their butts off just to make like a portion of what she steals.
yeah. Well,
You know?
the other thing is government officials are holding their nose and giving her the money because no one wants to take those buildings and fix them after the messes she's made. And one of the comments I've gotten is no one knows what kind of backdoor deals she's made and where money is owed. We don't want to get in the middle of that mess until it's cleaned up.
Well, who's going to clean it up? You just expect, because I'll
They
be able to
think
say
she
this.
is, but she's incompetent.
No, 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 she's not. She made you can't, what's that quote? You can't fix a problem with the same consciousness that created it. I probably
Correct.
butchered that, like, but I mean, if somebody messed something up, she hasn't changed. She's not going to clean anything up at all. And I'm with whoever the friend that said, you know, she just needs to go home. I don't think so though. I would like to see her held accountable to the extreme. I don't even know her. You know, if she had to go to jail for something, I'd put money on her commissary just to be a good person, because I don't hate her for any other reason. I don't hate anybody, but I just like the way that she is misrepresented and taken so much from the town we live in. I mean, when I think of all the things that could have been in Columbus, if this woman had just done her job, not even good job, just done the job, period, I get choked up. I need to stop.
Well,
I'm
you
getting
know,
heated.
and my thing is I don't care what she does in her personal life. I do not care how she spends her personal money. I don't care how she spends her children or her grandchildren's money. That's none of my business. But what she's doing with public money is
Yeah,
my business and your business and every other person in this community, because it's our
right.
tax dollars. And then add to it, she got her hands on ARPA funds, which is what the city just gave her. Now, that's not just our money, that's anybody who lives in the country. They have a right to know how that money's spent because it's ARPA money. That's federal money. That's not
Right.
state and
Yeah.
that's not local.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
It's just I'm sitting here pouring sweat, Shannon. It's a good thing I'm not on video. I'm still here. I heard the beep that time too. That may be my alarm. I was supposed to leave like 15 minutes ago.
yeah, well,
Sorry, Dad.
all right, so let me close up. I want to thank y'all for
Okay.
coming. I want to thank you especially for joining me and having this chat. And I know we
Oh,
talk over
me?
each other all the time, but I want to
Oh.
I want to thank our guests for coming to the Tom Bigby Tales. Until next time.